So we're kicking off the next in the Bang It a Beauty series with our GH Sigma. This is a bit of newsreel footage to celebrate the 100,000th Sigma. Of course, this was I found this on the internet. I certainly hope it's going to be alright to use it. Whatever the case, we bought ourselves one and went about restoring it. Well, we didn't really restore it, we kind of recommissioned it, but as usual I got a bit carried away. And you can see here, this is an SE, I think. It's got those wheels on it. No, it's not an SE, it hasn't got the chroma in the front. Whatever, doesn't matter. So we bought ourselves a GH Sigma. I've got some footage of it coming up quite soon, and it looks better than it was. It was a rundown old thing. I didn't use the footage because of when I first got it, I should say, because I shot it in bright sunlight down the side of the house, so there's no real clear image of it. Later on that day, I sort of reversed it down the bottom of the driveway and took some shots of it, and you'll see that in a moment. But it was after I'd sort of vacuumed it and taken some seat covers off. Of course, you'll see all that sort of thing on the in the series. There's a series of 28 odd videos or thereabouts, but I hope you enjoy this. This is the second one. There's a picture of it there from the previous owner. Of course, he was appalled when he saw the condition it was in when I got it. And here it is here. It looks fairly tidy. All things considered, it really does look very, very tidy. Fabric on the seat, I should say, is stretched. I've just eaten oysters. My wife just made me oysters, Kilpatrick. And the carpet looks good, although it was rotted on the left-hand side. It was dirty. It looks better in the film footage than it was, I have to say. So a couple of interior shots there. This is just the boot, and I was very impressed with it. The wells are all in good condition. There was a little bit of rust here and there, but it wasn't difficult to sort out. Down the bottom of the wells is fine. You can see just bits of odds and ends from plastic bags down there, but everything turned out to be very solid. It was quite an impressive car indeed when I first saw it. This is one problem area which wasn't immediately obvious. I knew there was something going on there. It doesn't look too bad, but when I took those trims off, of course, it was a bit of a mess. Door trims, brilliant condition. Everything seemed good. The car has been smoked in before. There was a small cigarette burn on the driver's seat, but aside from that, really good condition. Dash plastics, you can see there, are shaking around. The tabs that sort of retain it to the top are all broken. But this sort of thing the previous owner was upset about, the brushed on primer around there, and you can't get that off. I ended up having to paint the whole down the sides of the car. And of course he'd also taken off the body side protection mouldings, you can see, and removed a lot of paint. So I ended up, the whole car needed a paint job really. I just ended up doing all down the sides and around the back and front. 2000. Very strong little engine. The Galants I think had 14 and 1600 Saturns, and the base model Sigmas had a 1600 Saturn as well. The Astron was available as an 1850 in the GE Sigma. The GH, they dropped it. The 2 litre was the smallest Astron. Of course, they went to the 2.6. You could get 2.6s in GEs as well, but they were sort of a later option. I think they were only in autos. I'm not terribly sure. We got oil leaks, and not a big deal. I'm not too worried about that. These engines, as I said before, I turbocharged one. They've got stellated exhaust valves, steel rods, steel cranks. They've got all sorts of goodies in them, so they're ultra strong. The thing that lets them down is that stupid carburetor with the wax pellet choke. The carbies on these really let them down, which is the reason they just plume out black smoke, because the chokes never work properly on them. At least when they get some age in them, they don't. Down yonder, if you can see that, and I'm tipping that's probably not a Welsh bug, it could be a crack, I'm not sure. So I need to investigate that. That would be a pain in the ass. There are a few sort of shabby home repairs done and a bit of gaffer tape around the old convoluted sort of tube, but that's the least of my worries. I wasn't sort of concerned with that at all. The rocket cover had a huge crack where it was over tightened as well. I've got some muck going on the radiator support. Oh, nice. So obviously we've had a little bit of a smack there. We've got a different colour between here and there. I would think that's had a bit of a belt, judging from that. So we can fix that. That's just a walk in the park, that sort of thing. It's very easy to do. So this car's a Satellite, which has the sports steering wheel, cloth seats, I think tinted glass and wheel covers. They don't have the sports dash, which I ended up getting made. You'll see that later on. Lovely original car, the clock was knackered, so I managed to fix that, but ended up not using this dash anyway. Although the original Speedo was used in the dash that was fabricated. Here's a shot of the wheels with the satellite covers that we pulled out and we never end up using. Not bad. There's a bubble there on the seam, but that's not bad at all. I'll pull these off and we'll have a look at the seat underneath. You always go for the driver's because it's always the worst seat. This is fantastic. There's whole lot of years and years worth of just crap, dust and that sort of stuff there, but there's no tears. Now, despite appearances, the engine was in good condition. I ended up doing compression tests and all this sort of stuff on it. It ended up being a peach. Despite the shown mileage of 233,000, it was just massively shabby. There was a big oil leak coming out from the oil pump, and also the rocker cover was cracked, as I said before. So it was a really, really grotty looking thing, and you can see there some of the wiring looks a little bit how you're going. Just basically old. You know, there was nothing wrong with anything. It was just old and worn out. So I really grappled with the idea of painting all this stuff with the engine still in. You can see the battery tray there sort of loose on the welds, not particularly well done. I ended up culling that anyway. And there's an aftermarket starter relay. I probably should have put that in. An ex-Mitsubishi mechanic got hold of me and said don't bother, just wire it straight up, so I did. So that sort of went by the wayside, but very difficult to make something like this look good if it's already been touched up with paint before and if the engine's in situ. So I kind of stripped it down with the notion of just cleaning up what was there, because it's not a high value car. There's nothing valuable about it at all, but you can see the wrong top radiator hose there. But look, typical of doing these sorts of things, I just wanted it to look good and I wanted it to look right. Still amassing a list of parts I need. There's the crack in the rod cover from over tightening the bolts, same as you see on KC and KE lasers as well. Let's get off. There we go. Right, take that. There we go. You didn't think we were going to leave it alone, do you? But it's all pretty good. Look at this. That's a bit messed up, as it's got foam rubber here. Oh my goodness. Hang on. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Now, if the sill is damaged here, I don't care. We can patch that. It's really, really easy to do. We've got a bog artist here, or a Bondo artist. See here. Beautiful. And the kicker, more foam rubber. So inside's fine, it's solid. I've just got to put a little patch there. It's all solid everywhere else, solid up here as well. In here, usual thing where you have seam sealer coming apart, so we need to fill that in, but it's all good. So we had a bit of a smoke and Joe here, blue and black smoke, blue from when the car started, valve stem seals or guides, black from the over choking, and I made that compressed air nozzle there. You can see I'm just tapping on the retainers to get them out, and yeah, that compressed air fitting I made for the Junkyard 302 that I did, and so it worked perfectly for this. A bit of an unpleasant job, but we got through it in the end anyway. Oops, I'm kicking cameras again. Now, with some fresh oil, I'm probably flushing it off that assembly lube I've put on. This is dodgy. It is aluminium foil and duct tape wrapped around a muffler to shut it up so I could hear the engine when it was running. Pretty laughable, but it was a good temporary repair. Quiet. The little Siggy's not doing too bad. We'll try and get that out as well, that dent. But all things considered, it is a very, very good car. Despite it not being popular with some people, I'm stoked. So I said about cleaning stuff up once I had taken all the ancillaries off. This is a toothbrush with some degreaser on big sheets of cardboard and old rags, so nothing went down the drain, but it did clean up alright in the end. I'll just run water through it and try and get rid of all that horrible rusty water. And we'll just clean up a bit more with some thinner around those dirty spots down there. We've had water in here, whoops, but the underlay that goes against the firewall and up here isn't water damaged, and that corner up there looks really, really good. So I guess I just want to peel some of this back and have a look, because yeah, there has been water there. I can see surface rust. I mean, it's fresh as fresh under there. And on the driver's side, it's really good too. So I pulled the stainless lower trim of the rear screen off and I got a bit spooked. I saw some rust there, so look, just decided I'm going to start kicking screens out. So here's the back one coming out, and it wasn't as good as I thought, but it's a Sigma, so we knew it wouldn't be absolutely peachy. Able to fill those up, might put a patch in, not really sure what I'm going to do with that yet. I just want to see how it goes. This is also the same, very thin, couple of holes. I think I'll cut that out and make a piece for there. The bad bit is in this corner here, and it's knackered. It didn't look that bad. It reminded me a bit of the XW when I bought it. So the front floor that we were chipping the underlay off, it was absolutely peachy underneath. There was moderate, very, very slight amount of pitting there. I ended up using phosphoric acid on it and priming it, painting it body colour and putting a 2-pack clear on it, and it's as tough as boots, and I ended up just refitting a new carpet. It was fine. Oh dear, this thing's chockers with petrol. Check this out. That is chockers. I can see a reflection at the bottom of the tank. It looks lovely and clean in there. So I ended up draining the fuel out and giving the XW and XD a nice drink and taking them both for a nice drive. The tank was great. Absolutely great condition. Just a bit dusty. Just not even damaged anywhere. I was really, really pleased with it. Harvey ended up putting a new sender in the top for me to make the fuel gauge work properly. So I disassembled the seats and put the covers in the wash. I think there's some footage of that later coming up. And I also wanted to re-pad them, all seats in the car, just because the velour was a little bit loose fitting, and I just wanted to give it a bit more of a taut look about it. Okay, I'm going to fall apart now. Good. Which way is the best way to take this apart? Maybe that way. Oh shoot. Okay. There's the flaps. All the foam is just disintegrated. I'll have to try and remember how this thing goes. Our core, and the core actually looks good. We're looking for green. That's a little bit green there. We can send this away for pressure testing, but it doesn't look too bad. So I repaired these flaps with some XC Falcon taillight gasket material from the packaging, and Rattlecan, this one, made a home pressure testing outfit for the core, and the thing turned out really well. I was most pleased with it. See how dark that water is. Like it's filthy. That's why I like sticking in the wash. You always get a better result. Oh yes, fresh water. Nice clean Sigma seat covers. Okay, now this is the last of the pulling apart videos, as we said before, so time to have a look at some stuff. I think we spoke about that. I'm about to cut it out. Just these little repairs around here, and that one there, not too bad. That's pretty easy stuff. Oh gee whiz, what else is there? No headlining. I'm taking that out too, because I've got to start doing a bit of work up here, and I don't want to fire. So look in here. Hey, come back. Right. So what we've got now, that's one of the wiring loops in the engine bay. I've just pulled it through. I'm going to paint the engine bay. I think we spoke about that. I've taken the steering wheel off because I'm going to repaint the silver bits. I've got to do the air cleaner as well as the wiper motor housing. I've taken the crash pad off just because there was a couple of bolts and nuts and business like that. Just while I'm welding around the screen as well. Bloody good. Excellent. Got to clean up a bit more. bit of crap down here. So that second skin, that's double skin there, that second one is for the top of the plenum. I think I'm just going to cut along there and just put a piece in just to give it the double skin thickness again, but otherwise it's not too bad. What else we got? Right, the master and booster are out. Steering box is still there because I want to steer this thing around. A few bits here. There's the parcel tray, which is spot welded on. And there's a skin underneath. And we've got the lip there. I might do that in 2 pieces, maybe 3 pieces I think. And all this beautiful plating, look at it, this is from Warner's Metro in Bayswater, and I heard they're going to close up shop, which is a terrible shame. They're the best platers I've ever come across. A lot of this stuff was very, very oily, which did protect the metal. It was very smooth and of course cleaned up beautifully, and you can see there, it is exquisite stuff indeed. So, hammering into the dash, pulling it apart, having a look. I wanted to put a tack in this, and a lovely gentleman donated a GE Sigma one. And I ended up using the tack out of it, and Harvey, one of a very good supporter of mine, ended up making a dash. And we'll show you the dash later. And he used bits out of pretty much everything. You can see I've got the clock going there, but I just wanted a tack. On a car like this, I think you always need a tack. A lot of this stuff's green. I wonder if that's coolant. So again, this was one of those gigs where I thought I'll just replace the stuff that's got holes in it. I ended up cutting pretty much everything out of it, even the surface rusted stuff, and putting new metal in, even though like this looked pretty bad here, but when you flick it over there really wasn't that much wrong with it. So I could have made something considerably smaller for that problem. So I was banging on that I didn't want to take the engine out, and of course I ended up doing that just to check the clutch out. I didn't like the idea of finishing the car and driving it around and finding out that the clutch was stuffed on it, but yeah, took it out, everything looked fine. Now, this stuff is just dirt. Can we see the transition between here and here? See all there, between the finger bits? So a real stroke of luck. A wonderful viewer let me know over the same model getting wrecked at a local yard up the road from here. Very unusual to see these in wrecking yards. I'd resigned to the fact I was going to have to make this radiator support top in 2 pieces. It was quite complicated in that the inner structure and also some of the folding on it looked quite complicated to do. But we found it and we stuck it in and never had a problem. It was a very, very easy job in the end, even though at this stage I didn't know about it. You'll see that car in a bit of footage coming up. I wanted to buy it, but they ended up sending it to the crushers before I had a chance to make an offer on it. So went shopping, got some bits and pieces. You can see here this is one of the heater control cables. The guy threw in this control module, I guess you'd call it as well. The original ones I had didn't work very well at all. They were kinked at the ends. I also picked up this centre dash piece in much better condition. There were some holes in it which I blocked up, but I needed that. That's a GE Sigma one. I ended up painting it, of course, using it in the car, and I had to have this guy. Roof console, very 80s. Quite hard to get, particularly with that steel bracket on the back. I was really, really happy to have that. Has a seatbelt warning light in it, which I had to come up with something for, and the rear C-pillar lights. Wanted to have those too. I want it to light up like a Fairmont, like the other cars I've got. The Ford, particularly with the rear Venetian, they look great. Mitsubishi badge for the grille, very hard to get that. It was broken, so I just ended up fixing it. And of course, for that seatbelt light I was talking about, I did nerd out and get some electronic circuitry which put a delay on it, which is adjustable from 4 to 40 seconds. So that ended up working very well indeed. Of course, this is the floor once I'd finished with it. Let it go nice and hard before we carpeted, but that was fine. I was happy with that. Went to the wreckers. Here is that rather tasty looking radiator support. I took a hacksaw and cut it up. It was a very hot day. You weren't allowed to use battery grinders or anything. And it was a damn shame, this car. There was so much on it I wanted, but the radiator support was the thing that really saved me. So I was very happy to get that indeed. It's a slam panel, so it's got a copper fair bit of abuse. What we're doing now, popping big holes here, and welding nuts in. Now I've run out of 8mm. Now I love Hydra Blasting, and this is the reason. This rocker cover, I haven't got a before shot of it, was really, really dirty looking. I never thought it'd come up literally like new, as you can see here. That's looking really good. As I said, I haven't cleaned that up to metal finish it. I don't care. I'm just going to put a very, very fine bit of filler on, and that's the only filler I'll need. A tiny bit of surface rust here and there underneath where the paint was. We can treat that, etch the thing, get it painted. Now we can actually start preparing this thing to paint it. So dear oh dear. So what have we got here? We got an air cleaner. It's going to get a reflection. Whoa, look at that. We got the air cleaner lid. We got a bike tank with the obligatory crap in the paint, which happens when you're painting in an environment such as this one. I wanted them all, and look, I've cleaned up to where there was some windscreen sealer. So I've done this in a hurry because it's going to rain today, and I need this thing to tuck off. Same thing around the other side. There's the thing there. That's not particularly tidy repair, but it is solid, so it's all good. And it's all new metal and all this sort of business. So up in that jam, that fluff hanging down there is just for from the cover. You don't need to go bat crap crazy over this. We're just cleaning it up. And we got the cover, which goes like that. Oh, spiffy. Look at that. It's still a bit grotty, but the rest of it came up very, very well. So I hope you enjoyed that. Headlining. We're going to have to chuck this bugger back in for a bit. So this was all to do with fitting the roof console. I want it to look good and measure it up properly and all this sort of stuff. And you can see that black box there. That's the timer device that I sort of hooked up for the seatbelt warning light. So I can't remember what I was talking about there, but geez, I actually might have to go in a second. I need to go to the bathroom. But yeah, look, put a loom there. I wanted it so you could take the roof console out, unplug it, and it was all going to fit properly. I didn't want to sort of hardwire it in so it couldn't be moved. Should hopefully fit. Not bad. It's been smacked from here. All that section's been replaced to that seam. And we sort of knew that anyway. We can see tiger yellow down there. We've already talked about that. We had the buckled top we knew about. And we've got all this yellow paint that's showing through. The thing is, once I painted this, I don't want to have to redo anything. I want to paint it, leave it, forget about it. But there's too much yellow showing. There's more under there. So another trip to the Wreckers to see our favourite little red Sigma, and I was there to get a battery tray, which was in far better condition. Of course, I used that rock as a hammer with a screwdriver to belt it out after drilling the welds. My daughter took a shine to the rock. It was ridiculous. She actually wanted to buy the rock, and I said, "You've got to be kidding me." She has that sense of humour, sort of offbeat sense of humour. Of course, we go up to the counter and I put the parts on it to buy the rock too. They thought it was a great joke. And of course we packed it in the car and took it home, and my wife just stared at me when I got home with this rock. She couldn't fathom why I brought it with me. I'm happy with it. Very happy with it. It's going to be good. I also put that insulation panel in the back too. You can see down there. So ladies and gentlemen, Rare Spares Rush repair sections came in. Couldn't believe you could get them for these cars, but it was great. They were just the right size, so some of that rust went underneath the paint. I managed to cut the whole lot out and weld those in, and those repairs came up fantastically. They're a really good pattern part. Normally these sorts of things don't fit too well, but I've got to say these were absolutely brilliant. I ended up wrapping some 80 grit around a screwdriver and using that as a sort of a barrel sander on these C-pillar trims to get the lights in. Is it round? Not really. Does it matter? Not really either. We've got all those in, the lights and all this sort of business in. There's another one there. Rear Mr. Wiring's roughed in. I've just got to chuck the seatbelts in. Now time to be cleaning rear wind screens. I've got the screen guy coming tomorrow. He doesn't normally work on a Saturday. That's ready for the screens. Nicely hardened off, it's all good. And then I can sort of, once they're in, we can do something about the, cleaning all this muck off and giving the roof a bit of a polish. I've still got to repair a few things there, and I haven't even finished on the engine bay yet. But a lot of that was because I kept finding surprises. It's all back in the Sigma, and this makes reassembly of the car much, much easier because we've got a waterproof car. Same time, done at the same time as the XC, which I've just sort of filmed. We'll just clean everything up and get it all back in one piece. I'm not nearly as fussy about this car as I am with the Falcon, just because the Falcon's sort of a full restoration and this one isn't. Just oh, look at that! Isn't that nice? Pull the hinges out. Do up them. That's not great there, but yeah, I don't know if it's worth doing. You know what I mean? On the whole, I'm pretty nonchalant about it, but not to the point where it's going to look absolutely awful. Good thing is I went in the car before I opened the back door. Right, so we're going to see how that goes. It looks pretty rough, but I've left all those gaps there because that's where your stitches go. The stitching's in the cover itself, like this. These ones here, they're quite wide. Our passenger seat foam, we've double lined it. There's two reasons I'm using hessian. One is this foam's old. It's starting to peel, like it's getting a look like Parmesan cheese on the carpet, if you know what I mean. Sort of little crumbs, and it'll stop that happening. This is the driver's seat frame, and what I want to do is I just want to see if I can fit it in now. But we might still end up with a couple of creases. Sorry, I'm not watching, I'm just eating my dinner. There's this like pastry stuff around chicken. It's really good. What are we doing? Oh, guards. Right. Cut the rust out. Stuck new patches on. It was a really good repair, that one. You can see one side I've done there, and I started filming the second. And started by just sort of taking a rough guess against the car where it was going to be before I docked the bottom off, and then I could sort of fit the guard and the piece back on the car and do it more accurately. Just turned out to be the best way to do it. You know what I mean? So it's going to fold around this part of the brace. I wrecked that bit there, but I don't care. That's alright. Beats the crap out of narrating, eating dinner. Oh, Kingfisher. Yes, the carpet sample. We did buy some new carpet. We had to. I might cut that back actually. Just give me a sec. Okay, I just didn't want to open up another roll. I bought 3 for the XC. I've used 1 for this. So I'll just buy another one for the Falcon. Don't. The heel mat sucks. It's not the original Mitzi one, but oh no, that was pretty easy. Look, this carpet is a cheapie. It's not bad though. Certainly for the money, it's not bad at all. So I've got no complaints really. The heel mat sucks. I hate that, but it's either that or a generic black carpet, and getting Dave to stitch it on took all that sort of packaging paint off, whatever it was. I don't know what it was. And I put an etch on it and a satin black on the inside, the same as the one over yonder on the bin. You can see it there. Rightio, well, I'm finished dinner and now I'm having a cup of tea. Anyone that's had a Sigma would be aware of the very heavy steering they have. Parking's a pain in the neck with them. So power steering kits are extremely rare. This is from a GK and it required some modification to get into the GH. The steering box on the car was pretty well knackered anyway. It had lost all its lubricant. It was raspy when I took it out to feel it, and so I was never very happy with it, but I managed to come up with this one. Now this did require some fettling. So basically I used the outer column from the original car and I shortened it, I think it was about 1 inch at the bottom, and used the inner shaft from the GK and fabricated a Delrin bush for the top of it, and then it all just bolted in as standard equipment. So it was a very worthwhile modification, and one which has transformed the car, I should say, from a very heavy feeling vehicle to something that's a real pleasure to drive. The only modification to the bracket was an extension going back to the engine block. It bolted in from the front, but I think they used a different timing case between the later Astrons and the early ones like this. So those two bolt holes you can see there, one of them wouldn't line up, so I just had to modify that bracket. So there they are side by side. You can see the slight length differences, but very easy modification to do, and huge rewards. How's all that racket from the dogs? Right, steering wheel was painted, cleaned, and I just had to repair the horn wire, and it was all good to go. Fitting it up, not an issue whatsoever. It was a really, really easy thing, as I said. You can see there's not even any coupling differences, nothing. It just all went in like clockwork pretty much, so I was pleased with it. Steering bag is in, look at that, huh? It's all good. That grommet there looks a bit sus, but I can't. I've tried to muck around with that. It just sort of pressed itself into that position. So moving to the bodywork and redone down this side here. There was a few large dents. The one where I'm sort of illustrating it there, and there's a bit of imperfection in the feel. I could kind of get behind it and massage it out, but the access was fairly limited. And of course from here I repainted the bottom colour right around the car, and you can see that sort of illustrated in this area. So I repainted the bottom colour and the front guards, but there was a shift in colour between the guard, you can see it there, and the tops of the doors. So this was problematic. I painted the tops of the doors and the rear quarter on this side, on the left hand side, but the rear quarter paint's been really problematic, and I'm going to have to redo it. Even now I'm not happy with it. Sticking the engine up on the crane, and just so I can start to clean it and have a good look at it, repair anything that needs to be done, and get it ready to refit. Got a few things to do here. What have we got? Okay, that's not all that clean, but it's going to do for now. Time these come out again, maybe the South Sea would have all evaporated, so they're cool anyway. But oh, hang on, come back. There's going to be a storm forecast. So just cleaning the engine up, the temptation to pull bits and pieces off it to check inside was really there, but everything tested out, compressions were all even and perfect, everything was good on this. So although I wanted to pull it apart, I refrained from doing that. We're just using a bit of Prepsol in a gun and a toothbrush just to clean up some of the grime on it. And just here, that's of course how we're fabricating the extension on the power steering pump, and welding it there, and then sort of bolting it up afterwards. Lovely painted engine block there, turned out quite well. And of course the ceramic coated exhaust manifold, that was a work of art, that thing. I actually wanted to keep some of the heat away from that area where they crack, plus they look good, so I wanted to do that. Powder coating, I use Sam from Tech Coat in base order. He is wonderful. And these are all your sort of radiator support bits, and the battery tray we looked at before. Sway bar, that's a battery clamp, all pretty obvious. And of course those lovely fan shrouds I got from our wrecked car at the Wreckers, that's the XC's spare wheel thing cover. But that all turned out well. It was well worth doing. Decided to put a new water pump on. Some of the unions are a little bit sort of corroded on it, so for the price of it, it was well worth doing as well. This is a better look at the ceramic coated manifold. Of course they sandblast them and ceramic coat them and bake them and all this sort of stuff, so it's just a one-stop thing. And of course I've got the order this wrong with fitting it there. I didn't bother putting the outer heat shield on. Of course the carburetor I pulled apart to clean it out, and also I wanted to have a good look at this thermo wax choke. I wanted to kind of do away with it, but I wasn't able to. The way the carburetor is set up, it's just impossible to take that thing off. So I tested it, or at least I cleaned the unions out and tested it, and it turned out fine. It's probably not as good as it was when it was new. But the important thing is it is actually moving. Oh, there goes the choke flap. So just adding other bits and pieces. These were plated, of course, and they look absolutely great. There's our completed engine there with the power steering pump all sitting there and the alternator and so forth. Still haven't got the carburetor finished, but that went on very, very quickly soon after. And I did have a little bit of trouble sort of trying to figure out the emissions hoses, but I looked in the manual in the end. That's always the last resort for me. Clean these fingers off a bit. I'll stick a bit of grease around there. Just a little bit. There we go, she's in. Beautiful. Got to get the mounts. I need to have another look at these mounts. I think I will change those because one side was pretty oily, which was this side here. Everything's on, it's timed, it's plumbed. Just throwing some of the front end stuff back together and it's really starting to take shape now. The sway bar was tricky to get in because it was sort of hooked around those two caster rod housings. You reckon I can do it? Ah, this is fun. What do you think? Now I'm above the door. Might luck out, guys. What do you think? We'll keep going. If in doubt, just keep going. That might have worked. Okay, let's take some height out. And I reckon we're nearly there, boys and girls. Which way are we going down? That way. And we've taken the bulk of the weight off the thing. So do you like the way we just made it? Yeah, it's raining outside again. So this was an incredible bit of work from a chap called Harvey, who's been a supporter for me for an awfully long time, and he took my old dash and another GE Sigma one and came up with this. And I like it better than the factory one because it looks factory, but the clock's sort of more an aqua colour, which matches the decor of the car, and so is the lens. The other ones are sort of more of a lime greeny sort of colour. He used modern electronics in it. He did an absolutely incredible job, and because we're touted to turbocharge this car a fair bit later, you can see the torch there behind the turbo light. Now I've killed that for now, there's no globe in there, but we can always come back to it later on. Oh, no, that's cool. I just wanted to make mention of this. I came to pick up some wheels. The lovely man's offered me these wheels nice and cheap. Well, it's got a huge hairdryer, but not just that. There's no front plate like they do. What did you use? You used HT mounts.
So the standard adapter that was on it, I used with just a conventional universal LS mount, and just welded the tabs onto that.
So fitting up some drive belts. I had a little bit of trouble getting this power steering one just because they're so unusual, and fitted it up. All new belts, all the rest of it, consumables are all brand new on this thing. Managed to get that shroud off the wrecked one at the wreckers. Very happy to get that too. And just sorting out some of the power steering cooler lines and how they're all situated. It needed the front bumper on to finalise it properly. It's got to watch, because otherwise it's going to catch. So I've got to keep going. I haven't even done the front doors yet, look. Look at the difference. And we're not finished buffing this out yet. See those little pock marks? The tiny little pock marks? That means it's not wet sand enough. I'm going to leave them. I'm going to leave them because it'll give us more buffing room later on. I'm not fussy to the point this is not a show car. This is a little humble Sigma, and I'm actually really happy the way it is. Just give you some idea. I'll just bang it down there. And I can see what the freaking I'm doing. Is that right? But yeah, that's how it's going to look for now. Yeah, so not my favourite by any stretch, but it'll do. The guards look rather sweet. Actually, I haven't seen anything like, have you? Oh, look at the Plimmy's wheeling. When you're doing this, you can see where I've been wet sanding along the floor. Is always to use a light. Now, proper painters use fluoros all up the walls, and you can really, really see what you're doing. So I would get on all fours, basically, right down at that level, to get, there's a mark there, to get the effect I wanted. Oh, hang on a sec. Is that off? Oh, that's better. You should see real clarity on reflection. Bit of light transmission fluid on the rear bumper really helps these plastic ones. It has an incredible effect. Engine bay's finished. It looks good. I'm very happy with it. Not all that sure where I'm going to get a bit of that convoluted tube for the cold air intake. It's very expensive stuff and I just haven't seen any around that size. Pressure tested the heater core, did it myself here at home in a bucket of water. The video's got lots of detail on that as well. Gloves are still a bit dirty. Bad work practice. How does that look to you? Does that look right? One chap sent me a message. I was worried about the heater tap. It's half-inch diameter pipe that sort of fits up to it. This is XWXY Falcon, and the original bracketry and hardware from the original tap will fit this. So I've sort of made a new heater tap out of the old one and the new one, if you know what I mean. So I've used the old levers and that sort of stuff, cable retainers, on the new heater tap, which turned out to be really, really good and useful to know. More great support from subscribers or viewers who advised me on this Goss kit that I could get for the fuel pump. Now, it's a million different types of these fuel pumps because the cylinder heads are different on some cars. This was a perfect kit, went straight in without any hitch at all, and now it doesn't leak any oil. Coming up, we've got the dash parts, which I painted, and this turned out well. I had awful trouble with fish eyes all over everything. Anything that was painted black from the GE, which is that one you can see between the two vents there, it was horrendous, so I ended up having to redo it. The main thing was, at the end of the day, it all turned out very, very well. But it did, you know, make me think pretty hard about how I was doing it, and threw a few curveballs. You just don't get much grace with these things. They're quite brittle. It's missing that tab there, and I want to see if I can get the radio in from behind. I've sort of left some things loose. I'll have to fiddle around with that too, I think. But she is looking very much more like a Sigma. So I pretty much replaced every brake component in the car except the steel line going down to the rear. There's a new master, there's, what's this, wheel cylinders, steel brake lines, you can see the flexible ones there, and some caliper overhaul kits, which I used right now, rebuilding the front calipers. The pistons were in great nick, everything was really good. Actually, I don't remember if I replaced the pistons or not. Yeah, I think I did actually. Yeah, put new pistons in. There they are, side by side, all looking sweet. And of course, fitting up the brakes to the car with these lovely new rotors, new bearings, new this, new that. This car should be good for another 40 years, I reckon, the way we've gone with it. Certainly more involved than I thought it would be, and of course we're adjusting the wheel cylinders there and just putting the brakes on, the drums on, and making sure everything's central, and everything turned out quite well. Suspension bushes on this car were knackered. If you can see, that's a lower control arm at the rear, and quite a few of them were like that throughout the car. So that was really an urgent repair if we wanted to achieve roadworthy. Like, it locks in beautifully. The other stuff I originally tried from the Falcons, which is never going to be any good. Get in this way, the water can't. So that's the idea of the boot seal. Cleaning up and repairing the door trims, there wasn't much to do. I just used a bit of dirty old mangy contact adhesive and then sort of stapled the bottom corner on because they were sitting out before. The car, look, there's a tiny bit of water damage there, but the cards are actually alright. And then we are stapling it all on to make sure it stays, it doesn't come off, and of course fitted these new speakers, which I didn't want speakers, but the holes were a little bit damaged from the original speakers that were there, so I had to cover them. I might stick some silicone lube in there. I've got to clean that off too, it looks terrible. Why I haven't bothered cleaning the jams yet, it's because I just never got around to it. Cleaned under there before I put those on, but I never bothered doing the rest of it, just because I was lazy. I've got that wired in now, so it should cut soon. There we go, beautiful. Alright, here are our wheels with a lovely new set of bridgies. Okay, they don't look too bad, I don't think. The only thing I've polished is that centre cap there. Soapy water will get rid of some of that water residue from the Hydra Blasting, but I think they look damn good. I think they look really good. Just refitting the fuel tank now. It's much easier on these cars to do all your rear end bushes and everything without the tank and the exhaust on. There's an awful lot of room under there. And once that's in, you just crawl around on a creeper and stick the tank in. I think there's just a bunch of nuts holding it in. It was pretty easy. Fitted the grommet around the fuel filler, and that went all without a hitch, of course. I do have to put a gasket in that cap. I forgot about that. Anyway, put the door on, filled him up with petrol, at least stuck 15 litres in, and we're almost ready to start. Old car antenna thing there, tube. And we'll just give each one a bit of a squirt. What happens, eh? shift into gear. Yep. That seems to be all working. Just got to get out of here and get it done. Just don't want to get caught behind anyone else. And they're waiting for a front end alignment. That'd be really annoying. It'd put me up for the whole day. Right. Well, we've got a unregistered vehicle permit on. Oh God, a bit of burning here. Let us go down and, yeah, this seat belt's all sticky. That's one thing I didn't check. Now I know a lot about this car, but I don't know that much about it because I've never driven it. I'll put this on the screen. Oh, that's good. See if it'll get us there. I've never driven this thing on the road. Only up and down the driveway, but it doesn't really tell you much. Second gear works. Change my glasses. I'm going to go the back way because I'm going to hit all the bloody traffic. Dash rattle. Too. How the hell did I get that wrong? So the front end alignment's done. Oh, that's not bad at all. Covered a bit of flack over this, getting teased about it, but she got through a roadworthy. And I'm pretty happy with that. Look at Harvey's dash. What a gentleman and a scholar. I still haven't fixed that interior light up there, but pretty happy. The exhaust was ultra cheap, but you can see the tailpipe's crooked. I might cut that and just weld just a chrome tip on it to make it look straight. And you can see the sheen level on the roof is very different from what it is on the bonnet, but I don't care. I'm actually really happy with it. So it's been through its roadworthy, it's got its exhaust, it's got its front end done. We're good. It's all good. Had an oil leak, found an oil leak this morning, it was just rock cover, had to retighten the two things. Otherwise it's, yeah, seems to be fine. Awesome.
Do I have to go in this shit heap?
Okay, so to celebrate, the first thing we do is we go to Warrandyte with Susie for lunch. What do you think, Susie? Luxury?
There's no words.
No words. You're such a good sport. It's like a celebrating thing. I always like to celebrate with Susie. So, even though you're still sick of me and my cars and...
Well, you're only taking me out to drive this car.
No, I actually, no.
I like the carpet.
The carpet's, yeah, well the carpet's new. That's probably why you like it. Not a bad car spot. First impression, Suzo, what do you think?
Oh, how romantic.
Romantic?
Oh, not.
No? Come on, you don't mean that surely.
How do I look?
You look beautiful. How does the car look?
Oh, lovely.
I don't think you like it. No, we're looking at the car. We're not looking at Susie, we're looking at the car. Look at that. Oh, look at that. The food was absolutely great. The fillet was only about that round, but it was about that thick as well. So, ate everything. Having trouble moving. So, now we're back to that car.
I want a new car.
So here we are, we're in the back of Park Orchards, driving a little Sigma around. This is my old stomping ground when I was little. So, all things considered, this is really, really good. Well, here she is, all finished and looking rather spiffy. A couple of things I would have done differently. I mentioned the brake dust on the front wheels. You can see there they're already starting to accumulate, and I haven't done many miles in it, so I should have bought the more expensive ones. But the other thing that I would have done differently on this car is the left-hand rear quarter. I should have taken all the paint off because it's starting to blister, and I had a lot of trouble putting the paint on, and I knew it was wrong, so I should have just taken it off. But of course, time was of the essence with this. I wanted to get it all finished by the time winter came around. This bang at a beauty business, I should have called this one Shit at a Glitter. I think, I don't know. It would have been quite humorous, but I didn't want to put that on a title. Very pleased with the car otherwise. It's turned out to be a bit of a cracker. But yeah, as I was saying, as far as this bang at a beauty business is concerned, I've got the XL250, which is finished. There's a couple of little bits and pieces just to sort out with it, like any old vehicle we do. There's the CB350, CB750, which aren't finished yet, which will be finished this year. The big one is the XC. Now that has about 50 something videos to sort through. It's a massive task, so I might start on that, release one of them to the state where it is now, and then when it's finished I'll stick it on top of that original episode, if that makes any sense. But look, I hope you've enjoyed this. I've had a great reception from the XW1. I want to thank Scott Newstead. He was the one who suggested this. It had been in the back of my mind, but I hadn't done anything about it. But at the end of the day, thanks very much for joining me on these little expeditions. The support has been absolutely fantastic. So take good care of yourselves. As I always say, enjoy classic, and I'll see you around. Bye.